Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you are joining us. Welcome all of you to this wonderful webinar that we have scheduled for you today. This is Ankur Bora, the head of outreach and international admissions at OP Jindal Global University. We are really grateful and excited to have this wonderful webinar and having this wonderful conversation around something which is very dear to me personally. This is an honor. I'm only missing goosebumps here. I'm so excited that to have such a distinguished panel, and we have been hosting educators from around the world since last 3 months. But I can stick my neck out and say not many of them were the change makers that we want in the education system today. And I'm honored to have these change makers today from around the world. We have representation from India, Africa. We have a representation from Afghanistan, Singapore. So it's a treat. It's an honor to have these people here today. The conversation that we are having is very relevant in these days, especially these days with COVID around and its impact on higher education and education opportunities for people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Just a introduction to my university. We are OP Jindal Global University. We are a leading university based out of New Delhi, India. We are a research-based social sciences liberal arts institution. We are an international university that looks to involve global community in issues that are relevant for all of us. So now beginning my webinar, give me a second. I will like to share my slides first. That's 15. Okay, so I hope you can see my slides now. So education as an equalizer, creating opportunities for high achieving low income students. This is the topic for our webinar today. As you know, education is called as an equalizer world over, especially for people from global south who are where education opportunities are limited due to our economic situation. We all in global south definitely look towards education in leveling the field. Definitely education is an equalizer, but a highly unequal education system can also pull us further apart. Reading this report by Oxfam in the morning while I was preparing for this webinar, and it talked about cross inequalities that are available, that are existing in our current global education system. Some of the things that are very well known, but I'll just repeat it for the context of this webinar. In most countries, children born into rich families will go to the best possible schools, very often being privately educated. They will have small class sizes, good teachers, and get good results. These students will be given multiple opportunities to grow their inherited privilege. Girls and boys born into poverty, suffering from ill health and malnutrition, arrive at the school gates already disadvantaged. If they arrive there at all, they will then struggle with overcrowded facilities that lack trained and qualified teachers, even textbooks and toilets. So that is the reality for majority of our students who come from disadvantaged families, disadvantaged background, and there is a lot of research being done about inequality around the world, economically, educationally. So this is just a starter slide for you to understand the context that we are coming from. New analysis by Oxfam using data from UNESCO shows that in developing countries, a child from a poor family is 7 times less likely to finish secondary school than a child from a rich family. And the report also quotes a teacher from Malawi. She says, I've seen so many clever girls and boys who score highly despite coming from poor backgrounds. She remembers a student, Chimbe Gabisa. She was brilliant at mathematics, the best she had taught. She finished secondary school but could not proceed to college for lack of funds. Now, we are living in 2020, and for somebody to leave education because of lack of funds is baffles me, but this happens around the world. So good education is the engine of equality. Definitely, we all agree that good education will lead to reducing poverty. And there's a whole lot of UNESCO reports out there. UNESCO estimates that each year of schooling raises earnings by around 10% for men and up to 20% for women. Boosting opportunity for all, social mobility, that is the possibility for children from poor families to end up better off than their parents, is intimately tied to the availability of education. The report also states that Education is something that brings the society together. Schools can be places where the children of rich and poor families can become friends and the barriers of inequality are broken down. They can challenge the rules that perpetuate economic inequality in broader society and give young people the tools to go to the world and build more equitable societies. Educated societies also support democratic societies, which is the democratic society is definitely more developed, more robust, and that is the system of governance that is desired the world over. So education plays a very important role in supporting democracy too. And coming to the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, which many of you should be aware of, and if you see all these 17 goals that the United Nations has put forward for the year 2030, and that goal is by 2030, all these 17 goals should be achieved. And if you see those goals, starting from no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, most of them are tied to good quality education. The access to good quality education will lead to gender equality, clean water, affordable and clean energy. All these 17 goals, maximum of them are centered around good quality education and access. But what are we doing with regards to giving this access? What are the governments around the world doing with regards to giving this kind of access so that the UN Sustainable Development Goals can be achieved? Coming from India, we have made some progress. Definitely, we are moving ahead, but I feel that there is a lot yet to be done too. So we need, as institutions, to support our students, and each country should be focusing more, spending more money of the national economy towards education rather than spending in some other aspect. So these are something that I wanted to set the context of the conversation by. I'm very honored and privileged to have 6 key speakers today, and they are all keynote speakers for me. I'll just briefly introduce them all. My first speaker, Joan Lu, she is the university advisor at University World College of South Asia. She is also the founder of Second Chance. For many of us who work in the international education, she is an inspiration, especially for me. I'll say that looking at her work, and I have been the privilege of knowing her and communicating with her on multiple occasions. I've always seen she has fought hard for her students. She has been in college counselor for past 20 years. She was the first inclusion and access chair at International ACAC, where she launched a scholarship program in 2014 for career and guidance college counseling. In 2018, she led a global grassroots effort to support 61 Nepali students whose full scholarships were revoked by a US university. And I was there, and I have seen the perseverance, the persistence that this lady has for those 61 Nepali students. And the kind of work that she put in to make sure that each one of them was placed. And due to her persistent efforts, Joan and her team successfully reseated 56 Nepali students at new universities in 6 countries with $10 million in financial aid and scholarship after the US admission cycle was over. And if you go online and you watch some videos on YouTube, you'll be able to understand the context in which she worked. And to get those students, those scholarship was a lifeline that she and her team provided those students with. We are honored to have Joan today with us. The next speaker that we have is Shabana. Shabana is a co-founder of SOLA Afghanistan. SOLA is School of Leadership Afghanistan. It is the first and only private boarding school for girls in Afghanistan, enrolling 80 students in grades 6 to 10. Shabana, I'll say, is another inspiration for all of us. She was born in Kabul. Shabana's childhood was spent under the Taliban regime at a time when girls' education was outlawed. She studied in secret until the fall of Taliban in 2001. She is a maker because she thought of coming back to her country and contributing to her society. She could have easily migrated to West and lived a comfortable life there, but coming back to Afghanistan in tough circumstances and getting up a school up and running is commendable. My sincere gratitude to her for doing what she does. She is only again in education and international education sector. Shabana is a global ambassador for Girl Rising, a world campaign for girls' education. And in 2018, she was awarded one of Afghanistan's highest civilian honors for her work with SOLA. In 2019, Forbes named her their Asia list as a social entrepreneur. So thank you so much, Shabana, for being here with us. My next speaker is Mr. Biswajit Banerjee, educator par excellence. He is the founding principal of Vidyadhan Leadership Academy, Bulandshahr in India. For many of my audience who are outside of India, you may not know Bulandshahr, but it's about 80, if I'm not wrong, 50 to 80 kilometers away from Delhi, in Uttar Pradesh. He joined the Shiv Nadar Foundation in 2008 and is the founding principal of the first Vidyadhan Leadership Academy, Bulandshahr, Uttar Pradesh, India. The concept behind Vidya Gyan was that while we have institutions, very good schools for nurturing high potential students from India's urban elite, a similar space did not exist for nurturing high achievers from economically backward sections of rural India. Working towards addressing the resulting lacuna of rural leadership, Vidya Gyan was established as India's first rural leadership academy for meritorious and underprivileged students from the state of Uttar Pradesh. And we'll be talking about his work in his talk. But thank you so much, Mr. Banerjee, for being here. And thank you so much for your inspiring work that you do at Vidya Gyan. The next speaker that we have is Ms. Efua Adabie. She is the head teacher of African Science Academy and the 2021 chair of High Achieving Low Income Access Networks, which is well known again in international education for doing great work for students from around the world who are high achieving but from low income backgrounds. She is the head teacher of African Science Academy, which is a selective girls' school based in Ghana. It provides educational opportunities to African students interested in pursuing careers in STEM. Efua is the 2021 chair of HALI network. It's an association of 41 schools and non-profit organization located in 18 African countries, working with over 2,000 high-achieving low-income students per year to access international higher education. Thank you, Efua, for all the work that you do. We're privileged to have you here with us. My next speaker is Arsene Matshwam Katawa. He is the founder of Educlub Togo and a high school teacher. The Educlub Togo is a community-based organization, which the full form of which is Education, Leadership, and Community Development in Togo. They support high-achieving students in Togo in transition to higher education. They're also a member of HALI network. He has helped, Arsene has helped many high-achieving low-income students to access education with scholarships outside Togo and outside the continent. He teaches English. He hopes to set up a robust program to increase education and the rate of girls accessing higher education in his community. Thank you so much, Arsene, for joining us today. We look forward to hearing you. My last speaker for the day is Dexter Patiachi. He is the Associate Director of University Guided African Leadership Academy. He works with the Academy in the University Guidance Division. The ALA is a residential secondary institution located in Johannesburg, South Africa. ALA seeks to transform Africa by identifying and developing and connecting the next generation of African leaders. The Academy seeks to transform Africa by developing a powerful network of over 6 leaders who will work together to address Africa's greatest challenges and achieve extraordinary social impact and accelerate the continent's growth and trajectory. So that was my introductory remarks and the context that I wanted to set in. Now I would like to invite my first speaker, Joan Liu, to share with us her thoughts on the topic that we have today and the work that she does with Second Chance. Joan, if you can take it.
Thank you, Encore. Would you mind starting the slides? Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, this morning, your midday, whatever time of day it is. And I'm just really honored to be part of this panel. And Encore, I just want to say a huge thank you to you for organizing all of us together and also for devoting a panel specifically for this demographic, which is such an important demographic to all of us. Maybe I could just start a little bit with some of the context that you provided in regards to the Nepal situation in 2018, because the reason why Second Chance exists is actually because that crisis occurred. So maybe if we could just pull up the first slide, if that is possible. But in the meantime, while that is being done, I'll just kind of share the story with you. So, and many of you might know this story. In 2018, as you know, every year there are hundreds, thousands of students who apply to the United States, and many of these students around the world dream of global mobility, a chance to access an English medium higher institution somewhere else in the world. And so hundreds of these students, thousands of these students apply to universities in the United States every year. And in 2018, what happened was the University of Texas at Tyler had issued about 104 full scholarships to students in the United States and abroad. And then came April. April is the month where we all hear about decisions. It's the end of the admission cycle. And the University of Texas at Tyler realized that it did not have the budget to honor these full scholarships, all of the full scholarships that they had issued. So they made a decision to revoke the scholarships of 61 students, and all of those students were from Nepal. So you can imagine being a student of thinking that you're going to the United States and that you've got a full scholarship. If we could advance to the next slide, please. One of these students, for example, was Roman Shrestha. You can see him on the side. He is one of the best in class. All of these kids were all from not just one school in Nepal, but schools scattered throughout Nepal. And Roman had been dreaming of going to the United States for almost his entire life, and then had this incredible opportunity in front of him, and then had it yanked from him in mid-April. So Selena Malla, who was the educational advisor lead at an Education USA office, it's called USEF, the United States Educational Foundation, issued a call to the entire higher education community asking for support and basically telling everybody that there was a crisis going on the ground. Her office was being flooded with kids who came in and said, wait a minute, is this a joke? Like, what happened? And so, in fact, it wasn't a joke, and it affected a lot of students around Nepal. Next slide, please. This student, who is Rupak, he had, for example, not only lost the option in the United States, he'd also lost options in Nepal. He had been admitted to the Institute of Engineering, which is the highest, most prestigious Institute of Engineering in Nepal, and had withdrawn his full scholarship seat so that he could go to the University of Texas at Tyler. Next slide, please. So several of us in Southeast Asia, myself, Selena Malla, and a team, what we'll call the Nepal Justice League, 8 women from around 5 countries, we organized and mobilized a kind of larger group of counselors from this region to pair up with students, mentor students, and then basically get the word out about what happened and ask higher education institutions around the world if there was any money left, if they could possibly take a student, if they would consider one of these kids. Encore, I remember you were probably the first person to come forward. You were Ashoka at the time to say, we can help. And so we had to find the students, identify them, verify them, and then we basically worked remotely with them over a series of a couple of months and through probably several hundred hours to make them more visible. We did a tweet storm to a major US outlets in the press to try to get the attention of some folks, amplify the students' voices, amplify their stories. And in the end, you know, as Ankur mentioned, there was a fairly successful outcome. I mean, we managed to find 60 of these kids. We managed to reseat 56 of these students. And one of the key decisions that we made that I think really helped was that we took a global strategy to this situation. It is so difficult to get financial aid in the United States, even during the regular cycle. I mean, all of us on the panel work with students who apply to the United States, and that August to April cycle is hard even during the regular cycle. Your chances, if you are going to a school like, for example, Shabana's alma mater, Middlebury, are often less than 1% if you are a student who's seeking full financial aid. So when we were looking at this post-April 1st space now, how are we going to seat or help these students find full financial aid when it was already impossible during the course of the regular cycle? So we decided to take a kind of global strategy, and students ended up being seated in multiple countries. So not just the United States, but Canada, Germany, Qatar, the Middle East, South Korea, Australia, and also some students stayed in Nepal. So that's the gist of what happened. Next slide, please. This is kind of when we were midway through the point of the process. We're here at Selena Malla's office at USEF, and you see some happy faces here. There are also, at this point in time, we had come to the midpoint, so we had about half of the cohort left to do. But in the end, you know, as I said, it ended up being a successful outcome for the most part. So then in 2019, what happened after all of this happened in 2018? I mean, we thought, okay, we're done. We've supported these kids. Now they're all going to go off to college, and hopefully this crisis can pass. Then in 2019, we had 8 kids come to us on an ad hoc, informal basis. And they were kids who had not had scholarships revoked, but they had just simply not gotten a home in the United States. So for example, one girl came to us, she was a friend of one of the Nepali kids, and she had applied to 20 schools in the United States, gapped, waitlisted, denied. I mean, this is often the case. It's not surprising when a student is high achieving but has no means and is extraordinarily talented, because it's so difficult to get aid. And so we reseated her at a school in Hong Kong, as well as the other students who came to us. And then we thought, this year, could this be actually, instead of a crisis or instead of an ad hoc initiative, could this be an actual program? Could it be a mechanism to kind of help place students who didn't make it through the course of the regular cycle, but who had applied to the United States? Next slide, please. And the following slide. So what we do at Second Chance, there's a team of 8 of us who are pro bono counselors, and half of us are from the original Nepal team. What we try to do is we try to look for students who did not receive viable offers of admission or financial aid during the cycle, and we try to help geo-swerve them. So we move them to another part of the world. We know that they've already proven that they want an English medium education. We know that through their financial aid documentation that they don't have a lot of means, and we collect all this information. And so because this is a pilot year, we kind of looked for students versus kind of casting a large wide net, and we called a couple of Education USA offices up that we had relationships with prior to this and said, who do you have who's left? You know, a lot of Education USA offices have an opportunity funds program to specifically meet the needs of HALI students, and we said, who's homeless? We also went to the HALI Access Network, which is what Efua runs, and we said to the network, is there anybody who has students who are still looking and who would look at other countries besides the United States? And so we gathered about a cohort of 20 students, and we started to coach and mentor and show them other opportunities around the world that still had could offer full financial support, so tuition, room, and board, because all of these students were very high need. Next slide, please. So here's an example of what happens on March 30th. We see this all the time, right, everybody? Here's somebody from Ghana saying, oh my gosh, I have a student, he's an incredible student, and he didn't get in anywhere. And actually, if you look at the bottom paragraph, he applied to actually 20 schools, didn't get in, was denied everywhere, was waitlisted at Caltech in UChicago, which tells us he's placeable. Maybe he's placeable somewhere else in the world, and clearly he's a bright child. He has very strong testing. When we actually got to know the student, because we reached out to this local advocate, next slide please, we found out that he was one of 9 finalists for the National Math and Science Quiz, which is kind of the STEM competition. And I'm, with his permission, going to show you who he is, because I think it's good to humanize the student and not just talk about the student anonymously. He's the student on the far right, in the light blue shirt, holding and grasping the hand of his friend. He was also Ghana's next genius. So what we did was, with Michael and with the other students in this cohort, we coached them and showed them other application opportunities in the world, also worked with several different markets in regards to this particular cohort of students. Next slide, please. Same kind of concept as we did with the Nepal crisis. We worked with everybody on Zoom. We do the whole thing remotely. We have actually not met the kids personally, but the beauty of technology is that now we can connect in ways that we never thought we could before, and that I think is kind of, in a way, an equalizer. There were data challenges, but we still managed to work with students over Zoom. Next slide, please. Our pilot, we took 20 kids from 11 countries. You can see the 11 countries here. All of the kids were extraordinary by measures in terms of their national exams, their impact, their mindset. On average, each student had applied to about 20 schools in the United States. So the binding thing about this group is that they have more rejections than humanly possible, like 400 rejections across the whole, but they now have, I mean, 19 of them have 19 new schools to go to. And the markets that we are sending them to are South Korea, Ghana. Ashesi in Ghana has been wonderful. Hong Kong, there have been some incredible universities in Hong Kong that have really stepped forward to work with these students. And we did find 1 or 2 universities that had some leftover money in the United States by accident as well. And by that, I mean, for example, one university had a You Are Welcome scholarship that they'd given to one student, and that student didn't yield at that university. And so they said, hey, we'll take a look at some of your students. So our vision is to hopefully grow this, to support students, and to also help students understand that it's not just the United States that you need to go to. I mean, I think one of the things that got the students into this situation is the ubiquity and dominance of the US narrative. But quite frankly, there are good schools all around the world. It's just students are unaware of these choices. And so Second Chance is meant to do just that. It's meant to give them a second chance, a second shot at applications, to give them another shot at global mobility, to give them another shot at a higher education institution that's an English medium institution somewhere else in the world. And anyhow, that's the gist of what we are aiming to do. It's a pilot year. It's very young. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm hoping in listening to the other speakers here who are further along, I can get some ideas, we can get some ideas as a team on how to grow this and develop it. So anyhow, thank you so much for listening, and let me now pass the baton to Shabana.
Thank you so much.
Joan. Thank you so much. Shabana, if you can.
Yes, thank you so much, Joan. And I also want to extend my sincere thanks to Encore for organizing this really timely panel. And good day or evening to all of you who are watching online. Encore, if you don't mind, starting the slides and advancing them.
I'm doing that, Shabana. Give me a second. I'm at it.
Okay, so as Encore is trying to get the slides up, I want to give you a sense of what it's like to be a girl in Afghanistan. So I'm going to lay out a few numbers, and I should stress that these come from the days before coronavirus. 63% of Afghan teenage girls cannot read. 66% of girls ages 12 to 15 do not attend school. 33% of girls are married before they turn 18. Girls who receive family permission to study, not just from their fathers, but also from their extended male relatives, often face the risk of harassment and even assault on their way to and from school. But let's assume a girl arrives at school safely. If she lives in one of Afghanistan's rural provinces, she's likely to study in a dilapidated building. She may find that the building has no toilets or running water. She will struggle to find a female teacher with the skill set necessary to teach her how to thrive in the 21st century online world. And quite honestly, she may struggle to find a female teacher at all. In 17 of my country's 34 provinces, less than 20% of the teachers are women. And in some of those provinces, that statistic falls to as low as 1%. And this is an enormously important fact. Many families won't allow their teenage daughters to be educated by men. So if no female teachers are available, a girl's education will very often come to an end. These are the realities in Afghanistan. And I will say it again, all the data I just cited and all the statistics I just gave you, all of this was compiled before any of us had ever heard of COVID-19. Everything you just heard predates the coronavirus outbreak. And I can promise you that as stark as things were, they are only getting worse. Which brings me to SOLA, the School of Leadership Afghanistan, my country's first and only private boarding school for girls. Our first class of 6th graders joined us in 2016. Those 6th graders are now 10th graders, and we are a school of more than 80 girls in grades 6 through 10. In this webinar, we're discussing how to create opportunities for high-achieving, low-income students, and I don't think I'm saying anything controversial when I say that if we wanted to fill SOLA with the daughters of influential and powerful families in Afghanistan, we could. Our model is well known. and I will talk about that in a second. But I want to stress that this isn't what we do. We bring in girls from all different ethnic groups, and many of them receive significant financial aid. They come from 26 of our 34 provinces, and we intend to have all provinces represented by 2022, which is when we will be a school of grades 6 through 12. Every girl we enroll benefits from the SOLA model, which my team and I created to address the challenges I told you that all Afghan girls face. As a boarding school, we negate the risks involved in traveling to and from school by offering our students a secure campus and an inclusive environment in which to live and learn. We begin the boarding experience in 6th grade and continue it throughout adolescence. We do this for 2 reasons. A girl who remains in school throughout her teenage years is much more likely to marry and bear children at a later age. And by giving each student the opportunity to focus on her studies rather than managing a household for her parents and siblings, we increase the chances that she will complete her schooling. Critically, we address the lack of qualified Afghan female teachers by incorporating remote learning in our curriculum, which was an initiative we embraced in pre-COVID days and is one we're even more dedicated to now. Our students receive online instruction from expert international educators who also offer feedback and guidance to our all Afghan teaching staff. Our virtual programming not only allows us to maintain continuity of education, but it's also allows us to attract top global talent who provide educational opportunities unseen elsewhere in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, our Afghan teachers and staff serve as visible examples of women in leadership positions and act as powerful role models for our students. Can we at SOLA still manage all this during COVID? The answer is yes. Can education be an equalizer for marginalized students? The answer is yes. The strategies and tactics that we all employ will be different, of course, but I think there are a few universals. Equitable access to online learning is one of them, and I fully understand how difficult this is. We have reliable internet on our Kabul campus, for instance, but when we surveyed all of our 80+ students, we learned that some of our girls live in homes where the most advanced technology is a phone that receives text messages. I know schools are reopening in some nations, and in others, the lockdown will be continuing. And regardless of where you are, it's crucial to know your students' ability to get online at home. We have spent months finding ways to keep all our girls connected, whether on campus or off, and our solutions aren't perfect, but they work. Lifting the financial barriers that keep girls out of school is another universal we can all embrace. At SOLA, we're waiving tuition fees. Certainly, I know that not every school everywhere can do this, but we do have to acknowledge that COVID is a disease that is hitting poorer families the hardest, both physically and economically. It's up to us to find ways to ensure that a family's financial situation isn't the factor that keeps girls from their education. We want educated girls in this world. Educated girls get married later, they have fewer and healthier children, they earn higher wages, as Ankur in the beginning of this webinar highlighted. And educated girls, in a word, matter. They matter to their homelands, and they should matter to all of us, even if we live half a world away. A final thought, the title of this presentation is drawn from a quote by a devoted friend of Afghanistan, Dr. Tetsu Nakamura. Dr. Nakamura was a Japanese native. He was a physician and a humanitarian, and he came to Afghanistan in the early 1990s. He founded an organization that worked on numerous irrigation and health initiatives that unquestionably saved the lives of thousands of Afghans. He was under no illusion about the danger he faced by working in Afghanistan. And in 2019, he was murdered in the city of Jalalabad in eastern Afghanistan. Dr. Nakamura was often asked why he stayed in Afghanistan and didn't come home to Japan, where he would have had a comfortable life. And this is what he said about himself and his organization. And I quote, "We choose not to go to places where everyone is willing to go, but rather to places where help is desperately needed and no one else is willing to go," end quote. So his message is my message to governments, policymakers, international institutions, donors, and all of us as educators, and to everyone watching right now. In these days of COVID, we must be unafraid to follow Dr. Nakamura's lead. The students who needed us before need us so much more now, and our strength will be in our loud and heartfelt insistence that human potential be acknowledged. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabana, for that inspiring quote. And I didn't know about this eminent personality. I would love to read more about Dr. Nakamura. If I may ask Mr. Banerjee, if you can start your presentation, talk about the topic at hand. Mr. Banerjee, can you hear me?
Okay, is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So thank you, Ankur, and for inviting me to be among such eminent people and people who are doing inspiring work throughout the different parts of the world, and also give me an opportunity to share our bit what we are doing. So you have already set the context that about the school, the location of the school, why the school is there. I'm just listening to Sabana. Even the girl education in India is not too different. Might be we are slightly better, but still lot needs to be done. So the Vidyagyan initiative, this school is for underprivileged meritorious children. If I give you the details, the demographic details of the state we are, that will be very important. We are in the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is the most populous state in the country, and the population is more than 200 million. So in terms of country, it would have been the seventh largest in the world. And there are about 5 million students who are studying in class 5. In our academy, we admit students in grade 6. So imagine 5 million students in class 5, and there are about 150,000 primary schools in Uttar Pradesh. And most of these schools are in the rural area, very few private schools. And the government is funding, as Ankur mentioned, government is doing their bit, but somehow the quality of education which is there in these government schools is not at par what they get in a private school. So these meritorious children, underprivileged meritorious children, they are talented, but because of lack of access to quality education, they find it very difficult to compete with their urban counterpart. So our initiative is to provide opportunity to these students, so that they get world-class education, and also to shape them as future leaders, those who can address the challenges of the community, the immediate community they come from, because no one knows them better than them what are the challenges of their community. So with this geographical background and where the school is started, we started in 2009. And just adding to what Shabana shared, from the very first year, we made it compulsory that out of the total intake, whatever number of students we take, 40% of the students will be girl students. And because of the obvious reason that in villages, especially in rural area, the girl education still it is lot to look for. So 40 from the very first year, that is the number we reserved for the girl students. We get about 150,000 students who apply for admission, and after through a regular very rigorous selection process, ultimately we are able to take about 300 to 400 students. We have got 2 campuses, and that means 1 in 500 students, that is what we bring to Vidyagyan. We started in 2009 the first campus at Bulandshahr, and then 2 years later we started our second campus at Vidyagyan, which is the Vidyagyan Sitapur, close to the state capital. All children, they get 7 years of free education in world-class infrastructure. And it is not only the physical infrastructure, the quality of teachers, the exposure that can be compared to any best school in the world. And also, since these students, they come with certain handicap, for example, the language proficiency. So each child goes through a very carefully crafted program, which includes the language and computer proficiency. First time they touch the computer. When they come to school, this is the first time they have touched a computer or access to a computer. Then the life skills program, which is very necessary for these children when they go out of this school. Then the leadership skills development program, in addition to the rigorous academic program which we already have. And throughout these 7 years in the school, they are involved in community projects. And this is, because of limitation of time, we will not go into detail of that, but they do the adult literacy program. Every child, every time the child goes back for vacation in winter or summer, they have to teach to adults in their family or in their neighborhood, and this has become a program, inbuilt program in the school curriculum. Then they have clean drinking water, which is not available in the villages. The smokeless stove, still people, they cook with blowing pipe, air through pipe. So they have the smokeless stove. Then we have got the adult literacy, the alcoholism program. They go to the villages, they arrange talk show, they talk about hygiene, importance of vaccination. And this is just because our school is among the villages, so the school boundary wall separates the village and the school, and that I will talk that it is so contrasting. We have got a primary school in the village, and just a boundary wall separating two very different words, a Vidyagyan and a primary school, the school from where these children they have come from. And it's a word of difference between the two schools in terms of everything you can think of. So these children have adopted that school because they could see what they're getting and where they were, the school they have come from. So they have adopted the school, collected the fund, and in the weekends they go there and teach the students. They have created a small library for them, they play with them and also teach them. Similarly, we have a very robust career counseling program which spans for 4 years from class 9 to 12. The purpose is to guide them after school, what are the courses they need to take and what are the career choices they have to make. And since they got it, now they call the village youth from the nearby villages, and they conduct sessions with them that what is aptitude testing, how can you know about what are the courses you are going to follow. So throughout these 7 years, they are involved as many as community projects, the menstrual health of the women in the villages, the vermicomposting project in the villages, and because they can correlate very well, these are the challenges of their community. So these are the community projects they do. We are affiliated to the largest boards, the CBSE board, Central Board of Secondary Education, which is a school in India and abroad. And our academic excellence, that is one thing we really focus on. And with passing years, we have improved our academic performance. And I'm happy to share that this year, our school was the #1 school among all CBSE schools in India and abroad. There are about 1.2 million students who appear for board examination. So constantly we have improved our board performances, and we are the #1 school in India now. Now, the Leadership Academy, our aim was to teach students for 7 years. But we thought that this initiative or this intervention, to bring it to a meaningful and fulfilling end, we need to go beyond the school, because just having a school leaving examination, that will not land up anything with them, with the student. So we started thinking of their college admission, and then we started preparing them for college admission, the SAT for the US universities. And as Joan said, yes, it is not only US, we need to look into the other geographical places where we can send our students. Then for engineering entrances, medical entrances examination, we started preparing them. And I'm very happy to share that from the very first batch, 5 batches have graduated from the school. The first batch graduated in 2016. And from the very first year, our student got admission in the best of the institution in India. Any premier institution you can name, whether it is IITs, whether it is NIT, whether it is National Institute of Fashion Technology or National Institute of Design, the National Defense Academy, whether the professional courses or the academic courses, best of the colleges in Delhi University or whichever cities they are. The Ashoka University, Shaman was mentioning, I have got 7 students in Ashoka with full scholarship. So now they are going pan India, and I'm very happy to see this is happening from the very first year. Not only that, from the very first year, our student could secure admission in top US universities. The first student she went to UMass, and now we have got probably about 12 students who are studying in different US universities. You can think of Babson, Bryn Mawr, the Wellesley College, Haverford, Ohio, Purdue, and they are all pursuing their undergraduate courses there. One of them she is the first student is completing this year, and I'm also happy to share that many of them completed their graduation last year, and those who will be completing this year the professional courses, many of them got placements, good placements with good companies, a package of probably 10 to 12 lakh per annum. So that makes us very happy. So the way they have performed in the school, their growth in the school, and then beyond the colleges they're attending, the courses they're attending, and since they've gone through a very robust career counseling program, they are very clear about the courses, the higher studies, what they have to pursue, and the career beyond. So with all this happening, we started this as an experiment, a social experiment, but this experiment has no room to fail, because if it would have failed, then no one will ever again think of starting such an experiment, because it involves a lot amount of money. We have already spent about $100 million on Vidya Again initiative. Not only money, the time, people, resources. So we are very happy that the way things have happened, it has given us the confidence that our efforts are in the right direction. And we are in a path to realize the vision of the foundation, which is headed by our founder, Shri Shiv Nadar, and which is being ably managed by our mentor and guide, Roshni Nadar Malhotra. So Ankur had asked me one question, whether we should have institutions like Vidya Gyan, more institutions like Vidya Gyan. My answer is yes. I gave you the data. We have 5 million students, and there are hundreds and thousands of meritorious students who are just waiting for an opportunity. We take only 300, 400 per year. So definitely there is a huge gap, and there's a huge need of institutions like this, as many as possible. Only then, unless until we bring them, these children, in the mainstream, we cannot think that our nation is progressing at all. And lastly, I will say that I'm very sure we don't have a bond kind of thing with the student, but I'm very sure we keep sensitizing them about the challenges of their community, and whatever the feedback we get, I'm very sure that many of the students, they will come back and they will address the challenges of the community they come from, and they will do something about it. So I see a bright future ahead for the foundation and for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for that inspiring session. May I now move on to Efua. Adabie, if you can, I will share your presentation, Efua, but you can start talking.
Okay, thank you, Ankur. And I do want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to talk with the great panel. I've learned lots already, and I'm ready to share a bit about mine. So if I give you some background, so I must explain that I really like pictures. I love pictures, so there's lots of pictures in my presentation. So I head the HALI Access Network, and I'm the head teacher of the African Science Academy, and I'll explain about the two organizations in a moment. Ready for the next page, please? Okay, so the HALI Access Network is an association of schools and organizations and non-profit organizations working in Africa. And we have organizations in 18 different countries. Sometimes people bunch Africa together, but we are very different. So I've taken some pictures from some of our organizations. So you'll have like some students from Basso in Somaliland. We have some students in Zambia. There's a picture of a student from South Africa, Imagine Scholar. So we have very diverse students in the network, and they're all from different parts of the continent. Next page, please. Okay, so why is this important? So the next page is going to be an image of Africa and just showing you the 18 countries that we have our HALI organizations in. And this has been very useful because some of our organizations are very small, like mine, and we're able to network and to share opportunities and to find out what's happening in the different parts. Because again, often you'll find people say Africa and it's again very similar, but we have different demographics, different religions, different beliefs, different languages. So this just allows academic institutions, universities and so on, as they come into Africa to see the different parts and to kind of visit the different places. You may require a student from Burundi, or you may want one from West Africa, from Ghana, Nigeria. So these are our different HALI organizations. Next slide, please. So yeah, we are 41 organizations, and these are some images of us working together and having a bit of fun together in Daba. And we work with more than 2,000 high achieving students each year. So these are the students that we are trying to place each year. So our organizations in total work with more students, more than just the 2,000, but every year we're placing approximately 2,000 students into university institutions. And remembering that these are high achieving low income students who need support and who need financial backing. These are the organizations that are part. EduCod, Togo is in there, African Leadership Academy is in there as well. So our organizations are very different. Some are very big and they work with a whole range of students. So some who are high need, some who can pay fees. Some institutions also work with students that are completely HALI, so completely high need, low income. If we can go to the slide, please. So the next one is just what HALI does. Okay, so we try to share opportunities. So we try to share best practice. We try to look at some of the challenges that we're facing. We try to meet annually and think of ways that we can advocate for high achieving in terms of getting fee waivers for exams. It could be in terms of admissions officers who really need to come and see some of our brilliant students. And we collaborate with them when there's issues on the continent, for instance. So with COVID happening recently, it's affected many different countries in different ways. So some African countries have the borders closed, some have them open. And the universities often need to communicate with groups to find out what is the situation on the ground. Are schools open? Are they closed? And that's basically what HALI, insight on HALI. And if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so next I'm going to introduce you to ASA. So it's the African Science Academy. And we are small, so similar to Shabana mentioned about being a girls' school, we're a small boarding school for African girls based in Temagana. That's our building. And we take students from many different countries, we put them together for a year, and we try to get them to share their diverse background. So if we go to the next bit, please. So what is our offer? So we have 4 main things that we do. So we try and bring diverse girls, different girls together. We found that when students are different from their classmates, they're able to kind of think outside of the box and come up with solutions with people that are very different to themselves. We're STEM focused, so we're trying to get more girls into the physical sciences. And so our girls come in doing physics and maths and go into engineering and computer science. NGO school, so we have limited fees, and limited resources. So our girls do not pay fees from other organizations or other countries, and we have limited time. So because we say these girls are gifted, we expect them to do 3 A-levels, 3 Cambridge International A-levels in 1 year. So that's kind of the challenge we give to our students. Next, please. So this is just showing where I come from. So we can go to the next slide and just talking about the lack of girls in STEM. So the next slide is our core values and what makes our girls slightly different. So we try to do the academics, of course, but we want them to be innovative. We want them to be ambitious. We want them to be diverse and have a caring community, be empowered, ready to talk, and go for those awards and go for those prizes. So we find often when we have award ceremonies in Ghana, you'll find it's a lot of the international schools, the students in there that are winning the awards. So we challenge our girls, them to also be the winners as well. So that's what we try to do with them in the year that they are with us. Next slide, please. Okay, so where they go to, where do our girls transition to? So a lot of them are placed in universities in their home countries. So a lot of our girls go to Ghanaian universities. Ashesi, Academic City have been amazing in Ghana for us. Some of the other girls, when they go back home, they go to their universities in their home countries. Others go abroad. So we do try and to get scholarships to go all over the globe, so America as well as non-American universities. And we hope that with them, they'll go with their background. So some of our girls have come from agricultural backgrounds, and we're hoping that they will go and learn engineering and bring it back to their community, find better ways of developing machinery and tools that can help them and their families and their communities to do better. Next, please. Okay, and then the last thing I want to say was that ASA girls try really hard to impact their community. So here are 3 images. You've got the first image on the top, which is one of our students who was invited to perform in front of some highly influential African women. So these are women who've aspired to be presidential in their countries, or first women in their countries. And so our girls are able to understand that they can strive, they can try and be the leaders and make the change in their own home communities, in their own countries. The picture down below is one of our students. After she came to us, decided that she had been given a lot. She said, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so she set up a community library once she left ASA, and in her community they have books, and she's trying to educate others as well. So although our program is small, we believe in the ripple effect and trying to impact others. And then the last image is one of the awards we're very proud of. Our girls do really well when they're given the opportunity. If you have high achieving low-income students and you give them the right support and the right resources, they are able to compete with the most privileged. And we've won many awards, and I'm really proud of them. Okay, and that is it for me.
Thank you, Efua, for all the good work that you do. Before I go to my next speaker and invite Arsene, I just want to make a room announcement. We are taking questions in the chat box. Anybody would have any questions for our Efua or our previous speakers, please type it in. We will be taking Q&A session in about 20 minutes from now, after Arsene and Dexter have done their presentation. So now I'll quickly invite Arsene, if you can come in, and I'm just putting your presentation up, but you can start talking.
Okay, thank you so much, Anku, for this opportunity that you are giving us to show the work that we are doing in our communities. And I would like to thank everyone, because I am learning a lot from you. And I would like to talk to you about how I came to Edilco Togo. The idea of Edilco Togo started beginning when I attended for the first time the International ACAC Regional Institute in Kenya, and it finally took shape when I attended the International ACAC conference in the US. So when I came back, I started this organization, this work to serve more HALI students, because I realized that in our communities there were many students who could not have access to the information related to the university application process. Many of them would like to join universities, but they do not have the required information and the required process to apply to that university. again, in our local universities, there are different majors or options that the students cannot have, and this leads them to drop their ideas or the subject of their dreams. They cannot apply they cannot pursue with their dream because the options that they are looking forward to studying are not available in our country. Can you move to the, yeah, okay, all right, good. So, and another issue is the lack of technology, because to apply to a university, you need to do it online. This means that our students need computer, they need laptops to get connected and to get information, to apply or to get any interview. So this was one of the major issues that we were trying to solve through the launching of that organization. And also for the student to have access to different universities, application forms and the requirement. We've realized that the English language as it is spoken, because we are based in a French-speaking country where the English language is not the language of instruction. So there is a need of empowering students or giving them the opportunity to get extra English classes to be proficient in English. And another problem was that the number of girls accessing higher education is very low in our communities, where people tend to think that girls cannot achieve higher goals. So this is also one of the things that we wanted to address through the organization. So what are the impacts that we had on our students? First of all, I will talk about the opportunities that we have before moving to the impact. We are working with highly achieving students who are able to score 17 to 18 at the French bac, which means that they are very outstanding students. And we have highly motivated and quick learning students who have great skills in leadership and entrepreneurship, and who are winning the Math Olympiad at the national level and the international level. So working with these students, we have been able to send students on full scholarship to different universities like SUNY Korea, McGill University, Ashoka University, HAC University in Ghana, the University of British Columbia, Pomona College, African Leadership University in Rwanda, to name but a few. I would like to mention also that we are covering the whole country, and we have also students who are joining some special schools like the African Leadership Academy in South Africa and the African Science Academy in Ghana that Efua is leading. And we are happy to have one of our girls who is studying there. She has already graduated. And this is giving an impact in our communities where people tend to think that girls cannot go to higher education or cannot achieve higher goals in mathematics or in STEM. And some of the international summer program opportunities that we have been able to help the students with are the following. Our students have been able to attend the Yale Young African Scholars Program, and they are the first Togolese to attend these programs, which is a great thing for us, and we're happy about that. And we have two of our students who attended the Yale Young Global Scholars in the US. And last year and this year, we are also having a student attending the HKU Academy for the talented student in STEM. Next slide, please. Yeah, all right. To give more access to our HALI students, we've been organizing some summer programs and boot camps to help students learn about the university application, learn about university scholarships opportunities available to them, and also learn about how to write an application essay, and also have more information about the international tests like TOEFL, IELTS, SAT. So we were very happy to organize the first national summer camp last year, and we had the visit of John Liu and some friends like Kenny and Tiffany. Next slide, please. Right. So based in a French-speaking country, we are also running some activities to empower students as far as their language is concerned. So we've been organizing activities like public speaking, debates, and this is the picture of our English speech contest that we organized recently. And due to the fact that there are some universities which cannot make it to Togo, we have been able to organize some virtual university visits for the student to have a sense of the universities in the US and in other areas, and ask questions to admission reps. Next slide, please. Right. So to get higher scores in our community, it means that to have access to resources. Unfortunately, in our communities, there is a big issue of accessing to having access to reading resources and materials. That is why Educode Togo has endeavored to bring in the country a container of 22,000 books to equip schools and libraries in remote areas. So we had 11,000 books in French and 11,000 books in English. Also, there are many students in remote areas who cannot do their exercises or do their homework at night because they don't have access to electricity. So this is also one of the issues that we want to address, and we have been able to bring 20 solar lamps to HALI students in remote areas to help them get this chance of doing their homework or learning their lessons at night. So we would like to thank here the Books for Africa for helping us get these resources. Next slide, please. Right, so giving also the chance to our HALI students to learn about leadership and entrepreneurship is vital. That's why we organize a training for them, and we invited some guests like Peace Corps volunteers and other people who were very helpful to us. It's also good. We think that our students need to understand that they are the center of their community development, and no one is going to come and develop their communities at their place. That is why we are encouraging them to engage in their community development. Next slide, please. Despite all this, we still have some challenges, and we are fighting to address these challenges. The challenges related to the cost of test fees, because students have to take TOEFL tests, SAT, which is very difficult for our students to afford. Another challenge is the testing locations. For example, our students have to travel 8 hours from our community to the capital to sit for the TOEFL test, or sometimes go to the neighboring country like Ghana, because I once traveled with one of my kids because he wanted to take TOEFL test, which was not available in Togo. And we're also facing this problem of materials for test preparation. And the students also need laptops to get to know about different opportunities available. And also, as we need volunteers, if they have computers or laptops, it will be easier for a volunteer to be helpful even from a remote area. So, and throughout our work, we came to face that there are some students facing, a lot of students facing the internet access issue. So for the future of Educode Togo, we are thinking of building a robust counseling program to increase the university admissions. And we envision to shift to a community-based upper high school to strengthen the skills of high achieving low incomes high school graduate students in their preparation to access higher education, so as they can be more competitive at the international markets of university applications. Next, please. So thank you so much. And yeah, if you need more information about Educode Togo, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Arsene, for the wonderful work that you do in the challenging circumstances that you have. I will now move on to my last speaker for the day, Dexter. But just a friendly reminder, we are taking questions in another 10 minutes. We'll start the Q&A round. I can already see a lot of questions coming up, and I will be taking them up shortly. Dexter, if you can, I'll put your slides up, but you can start talking.
Great, fantastic. Thank you again for this fantastic opportunity. One of the reasons why I love engaging in these types of webinars is that I'm constantly re-inspired to continue doing the work that I do as a university guidance counselor at ALA, but also in providing access to students across the continent. I thought that I really loved how Joan started her story about one of the students that she worked with, and the idea of humanizing the student. And why that's so important to me is because I am one of those HALI access students. I received significant financial aid to attend a private school in South Africa and then to attend Amherst College in the US. And I understand the importance of access as well as the impact that it can create on communities that these students are a part of. In just thinking about that building context, according to a 2019 UNICEF report, Sub-Saharan Africa has made momentous progress towards increasing secondary school enrollment. By 2018, the enrollment rate for lower and upper secondary school were 32% and 22% respectively. These numbers are significantly lower than other regions across the globe, which highlights the need for further expansion and development of education on the continent. Furthermore, this expansion needs to balance access, quality, and equity, three key components to Africa's future growth. This is not an easy feat and requires great investment. From this short introduction and the context that I just delivered, one gleans that education has been and continues to be one of the greatest challenges in Africa. It is against this backdrop and the many other challenges that the continent faces that ALA was born and opened its doors in 2009. We can go to the next slide. So just to sort of provide some information, I'd like to share ALA in numbers. There are 1,309 young leaders within the ALA network. 46 of the 54 African countries are represented at the Academy. To date, 1,971 internship and job placements have been secured through the Africa Careers Network. And for our transitions to universities, students have received cumulatively over 136 million US dollars. Our alumni have also created 177 ventures across the African continent. It is integral and an important part of understanding who ALA is as an institution is to understand its mission. And Ankur, you shared this earlier. So the African Leadership Academy seeks to transform Africa by developing a powerful network of over 6,000 leaders who will work together to address Africa's greatest challenges, achieve extraordinary social impact, and accelerate the continent's growth trajectory. Part of these challenges include rapid urbanization, the education challenge, healthcare, infrastructure, job creation, governance, and climate change. We can go to the next slide. In order to address these challenges, ALA created a unique and innovative model and curriculum. So ALA's model can be described in through three different steps. First, we seek to identify potential. ALA has developed a robust admission process to identify youth who have shown initiative and academic promise. When they come to the Academy for the 2-year program, they put this into practice. So through the development of an innovative 2-year diploma program, ALA students are immersed in rigorous intellectual growth and leadership development. Students engage in the core curriculum, which includes entrepreneurial leadership, African studies, and writing and rhetoric, as well as Cambridge International A-levels. So our students are constantly engaged in developing their minds, and the idea of Pan-Africanism is it's at the core of ALA's identity. We believe that only through Pan-African growth and development can the continent move forward. We also seek to provide opportunity for our students. At ALA, we believe that once you join the network, you're a lifelong member of the community. Therefore, young leaders are aided and guided by a powerful network along their path to transformative impact on the African continent. And this is where my work as a university guidance counselor really comes in. We can go to the next slide. An integral part of the opportunities that we share with students is through offering university guidance support. According to a 2010 UNESCO report titled Trends in Tertiary Education, Sub-Saharan Africa, only 6% and I really want us to focus on that number, only 6% of students of the tertiary education age cohort was enrolled in tertiary institutions in 2008. So that is 6% of university age students who were attending university on the continent, compared to the global average of 26%. It is believed that presently that number stands at 8%. So we clearly have our work cut out for us, and that's why I'm so happy to see some of my colleagues within the HALI network, Access Network here, because we are really fighting that fight, trying to get more students into universities across the globe. And it's without partners like Joan, Asin, and Efua, our work would not be possible. So recognizing the urgency required for addressing the low tertiary education enrollment numbers, ALA's university guidance team has adopted a model that promotes intentional advising. And what we mean here is that we really work with students on a one-on-one basis to understand what they are looking for as a next step. We also look into their weaknesses and strengths and try to develop them from an early stage so that when they are applying to universities, they have the strongest application possible. One thing that we constantly work on is expanding pathways through university partnerships. Everyone here has mentioned the need to diversify where our students apply. I think that historically most ALA students went to US institutions, but recently we've been seeing higher numbers of students enrolled at universities in Asia, in Europe, as well as on the continent, and we've been really happy to see this trend shift. We also believe that sharing our knowledge is an integral part of a broader and wider reach. And therefore, we've created initiatives like Kenza, where we create materials that we then share through an open access platform with the rest of the HALI network and anyone interested in using these resources. We can go to the next slide. And so just to think about the importance again of access, I think that the impact that ALA alumni have had on their communities, as well as the African continent as a whole, has been tremendous. We've recently launched a campaign called Redefine Expectations, and the link is on the slide. We will share that as well. And you are free to actually read alumni stories. But I did want to highlight 3 alumni in particular. And these alumni all work in education. So Jihad Hajouji from Morocco leads a network of education entrepreneurs building high impact institutions across Africa through the Anzisha Education Accelerator. Drawing expertise from her earlier career as a consultant with Dulba Global Development Advisors and learnings from Stanford University, where she earned an MBA and master's degree in education, Jihad seeks to transform the education landscape in Africa by empowering the next generation of education leaders. Likewise, Majak Inyait from South Sudan is the founder and president of Education Bridge, a nonprofit organization building a network of schools to foster peace building and leadership development in South Sudan. And then lastly, we have Deborah Kalala, who founded Manas School in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, to offer high quality, affordable education at the preschool and primary school levels. And this just kind of shows the importance of providing this type of access to these students, because they really do go back to the communities and make a great impact. And I think that this is one of the joys of working at an institution like ALA and within the HALI network. And again, thank you so much for engaging us on this.
Thank you, Dexter, so much. Thank you for that presentation. I'll just stop sharing my screen and then open up the Q&A round. I have already got some questions for all of you. Okay, so let me just pull it out. And we are taking questions, so audience, you can start your questioning now. Okay. Joan, so this is a question for you from one of my friends and a counselor based in Nairobi, Kenya, Shaheen Dar. Shaheen says there are a couple of questions or comments. She says is it possible to set up a similar organization like you are doing with Second Chance for Achievers in Africa, for low achievers? Second question is, have you developed links with students from Kenya, and have you managed to place some students from Kenya in universities abroad, any African students that you have been able to work, probably that is what she wants to know. And third, she says, is it possible to set up similar organization for low achievers? So she also talks about students who may not be high achievers. If you have something in mind, and they can be given vocational education or some funding for vocational training. So these are a couple of comments from her. So I leave it to you how you want to address those.
Maybe I'll address the second question first, because I think it's specific to Second Chance. But I actually think the question of low achievers, kind of low achievers, low income, is a question that actually all of us probably have an opinion about. So in regards to, first of all, I just want to explain that Second Chance is a pilot. You know, we don't actually know how to meet the needs of the. I mean, if you think about how many kids get denied from the United States who need financial aid, we have no. I mean, we're thinking about this is a very small mechanism right now. It's like a drop in the bucket, right? I mean, it's something. It's still 20 lives. I mean, that matters to us, but still, we don't know. I don't know. I am finding my way through this because I don't actually know if this can be an organization or something that's more than an initiative. Right now, it's a volunteer initiative, and it requires actually a lot of high touch counseling. You know, Dexter was talking about one-to-one counseling. This is like supreme one-to-one counseling, as it always is when it comes to high achieving low income students. I mean, there's so many barriers, right? I mean, between like the visa to the forms to the data to everything. So I don't actually know if this is, I don't know. I guess the answer is I don't know. In regards to whether or not we've worked with students from Africa, we have, but we, as I said before, we did not kind of open the gates and say everybody can apply, because we didn't one, feel like we could sort everybody. We were afraid of the volume and not being able to meet it, and so we decided just to see if the concept would work. Like, would universities pick up a kid after April 1st and work with us? And so we did work with students from Burundi and Ghana and Uganda, and I'm trying to think if there were any others. Those were, I think, the primary countries that we worked with. And not yet for Kenya, not yet for many of the countries that, I mean, Dexter said, I think you said 56. I mean, most of those this is a very tiny little pilot here. In regards to the question, and I would like to throw this out to the group because I think we all probably struggle with this, is, and I have been asked this before, okay, we've talked about high achieving low income, but what about middle achieving low income? What about low income and low achieving, right? And of course, I say achieving with a caveat because I think part of that is what you have access to, right? And so I think right now, systemically, there are systems set up for kind of helping sort of the best and the brightest, right? And that becomes a leverage point with an institution that's also trying to bring in revenue. And so that they can say to themselves, okay, well, we've got all this revenue coming in, but we can afford a couple of these kids if they're the best and the brightest. And that is the criteria, right? But we don't actually yet have mechanisms for everyone, because really, ideally, everyone needs a chance, right? I mean, every one of Shabana's girls in Afghanistan needs a chance. And I mean, Bishwaji, I was thinking to myself, like, looking at your numbers, you take 300 and the 150,000 that apply, you know, I mean, everybody needs an opportunity. And so that's a huge and larger question, I think. And so I'm just going to leave it there. And if anybody else would like to jump in on that, all I can say for the moment is that, at least for Second Chance, we are trying to work within the system that is available right now, which is, and so necessarily we have to target high achieving low income students. I don't yet know the mechanism. So let me just pause there and throw it out to the group.
I think, Joan, the point here is, and there are a couple of comments. One is from a faculty, Dr. Anita Vedyanathan, on the similar lines. I think we are the people on the front, you are the people on the front line. That's why people want to know your thoughts on this topic, but I will read out her question. She says, remarkable presentation by all the speakers. While most of the speakers have spoken about high achievers who somehow managed to gain accessibility to premier institutions, what about the underprivileged learners with learning disabilities who might face academic, psychosocial and emotional challenges, or the first generation learners for whom access comprehension of content becomes a major issue? Shouldn't there be interventions made by these premier institutions to motivate them too, so that they feel included and accepted? this is something that I also feel that, and this is a conversation that we do have in India also. This is such a huge population. How do you satisfy? And that's why I made that comment to Mr. Bishwadit, saying that we should have many more Vidya Gyan academies all over the country, because everybody needs, and you're so right, Joan, everybody needs a second chance. Probably someday we can do that, but I don't know if somebody wants to take this question, or has some comment or some feedback on this, please. It is open to all of you.
If I could just jump in quickly to add to this conversation, I think it's incredibly important to advocate for low achieving students, especially from low income backgrounds. And like Joan said, with that caveat of what we mean by low achieving, especially in low income, when access is a major concern. In our case, for instance, I think one of the most effective strategies has been to really reach out to college counselors at universities where our students apply to and encourage them to look at our students beyond the standardized test scores or even transcripts, especially in cases where our students have had the opportunity to be able to leave Afghanistan and study at a private boarding school in the US or elsewhere for several years, and to emphasize that there have been so much loss of learning because of their background and where they come from. We had a recent study that came out that showed that even a 2-month disruption to continuity of learning could cause up to 2 years of loss of learning for kids. And that loss of learning can happen when kids return to school for curriculum that is not designed at their level, etc. So I think one of the best ways would be to advocate for the students during the admission process. But beyond that, once the students are admitted, we've also taken interest in what kind of institutional support is in place for the students. So in cases where the schools or the institutions have not had English as a second language learning program, or special writing tutoring programs, we advocate for those. Looking at the student and their grit, the overall who the student is, their persistence. We've had a lot of students who may not have shown or who may not have looked or appeared high achieving on their transcript or even a standardized test, but once they have been given a chance, they have made Dean's List or honor list repeatedly. And so I think it's important to focus on the students' grit and persistence, and that becomes an important focus. The other issue is also to Joan's point about low achieving, low income students, is that a lot of these students come from, especially, and I can speak to the Afghan context, is that in our context, there is no recognition whatsoever for any kind of learning difference. So automatically, when our very, very narrow educational system, which is based on rote learning, if this is not the kind of learning style that works for a particular student, especially if they have dyslexia or etc., automatically they are marked or labeled as low achieving students. And I think that's especially something that college counselors or universities should be paying attention to when they are evaluating students from across the globe.
Thank you, Shavana. Mr. Banerjee.
Can I add something to that? So first thing, as an organization, we are very clear that we are into creative philanthropy, not corrective, because the numbers are huge, as I mentioned. And even we open as many private institutions, private entities like us probably don't have resources in terms of money or time to address such a huge number of students. I think the government has to come, government has to intervene, and we need to improve the quality of our primary education. As I said, government has fund and they need to spend more, but more than that, the quality of teachers, the accountability of the teachers, the training of the teachers. If I mention 5 million students in class 5, so any number of private institution will not be sufficient to cater to them. So probably at a grassroots level, we need to change the whole education scenario. And believe me that 2 decades back or 3 decades back, if you ask any officer, any person in the Indian administrative service, which school you attended, they say we attended a government school. So it is not that the quality of government schools were that bad. All across, when we meet people, they attended the government school, but somehow over a period of time, the quality has gone down, or they could not keep pace with the changes which was happening around. And that's why there's a huge gap between the private school and the so-called government school. So I think at the grassroots level, to address the problem of masses, such huge number, we need to do something at that level.
I think Mr. Banerjee and the government came out with a new education policy, the Indian government 2 days back. I don't know, there are a lot of positive noises around that. If we can, it will address those issues that we have, especially in India. We are not talking about other part of the world, but yeah, India came out with this new education policy for education for all over India, which is after 34 years. We have revised our education approach to education and talks about interdisciplinarity, quality teaching, and a lot of other things. Probably we'll have another conversation sometime soon. But yeah, Efua, you wanted to say something?
Uncle, yeah. Yes, I wanted to say that I believe that starting with high achieving low income is the beginning. I feel like Rome wasn't built in a day. If you're able to diversify opportunities, so in the past, high achieving low income students didn't even get the chance, it was always for fee paying, opening up the opportunities. As they go in, as our students go in, they will remember their brother, their sister, their cousin, whoever was in their community, and try and also set up their own community schools. So, I mean, we have examples here. You've got Joan, who's done some work and she's opening up other things. Arsene, Shabana, Mr. Banerjee. So I think it starts bit by bit. We start with this, we try and open up opportunities, we create leaders who will also come back and think about who else needs to be given this opportunity as well. How can we level the playing field? And if you look at history, you look at how women were educated initially, they weren't. And then gradually a few women got into the system. And then before you know it, they've opened it up so it's mainstream. So I think we have to do it bit by bit.
Absolutely. I think that's a valid point. Yeah, Dexter, please go ahead.
If I can just add on to what Efua said, I think that ALA is one of those models where we've now created a network and the alumni from the institution are opening schools across the continent within their home communities, advocating, doing teacher training as an institution, just rethinking how we can develop education across the continent and quite frankly across the world in order to support different students. And I think that just to address directly the question on, let's say, middle achieving or low achieving, again, with the rhetoric, I think that needs to change. But in addition to that, I think that it is important to think about what the application strategy is. And as a counselor, that's something that we constantly engage our students on. It's what are you highlighting about you as a student and your academic potential, not necessarily your academic result, but your academic potential. I think that's a key component as well.
Thank you, Dexter. I have a very important question, I think, and that is something that will be very relevant. There are more than a couple of questions around the same theme. I'll take one from Joet Tracy Nasumbuga. She says, very inspiring work that all of you do. Words can hardly express my gratitude. I'm really passionate about helping my learners, and thankfully I'm able to help some high achieving low income students. However, many a time I have found myself stuck along the way due to limited resources, like even data and money. How do you share, how do you overcome this economic sustainability? How do you go about raising money or resources for your students? So this is something I think open for all. Anybody wants to take up this aspect of the, getting resources for your student, getting connections, how do you work that out? Anybody would like to take this up?
Sure. We as a school, for instance, our our model is we have registered a foundation in the U.S. Or as a charity, as a nonprofit charity in the U.S. And basically that entity is responsible for doing a lot of fundraising to support school operation. But when it comes to our students applying for universities, we for instance, we have a few students now who are studying at Ashoka University in New Delhi, and even though they're offered full scholarship, the students, their families are not able to afford, for instance, their the extra, student stipend or expenses that students will have on a daily basis. So we have tried to reach out to families within New Delhi who are able to either become a host family or host them for the short breaks while they're in India, but also families who might be able to offer some sort of a stipend for these students as they are continuing to study abroad. I guess there could be numerous ways organizations can go about fundraising. I know that there are many successful crowdsourcing that small entities, organizations do around certain times of the year. For instance, Facebook facilitates some these kinds of fundraising opportunities. There are entities like Global Giving that small organizations or nonprofits can register with to fundraise through. So many of these could become resources through which small organizations can raise funds. I'm not sure if that's very helpful, but fundraising is not easy, and so I guess it requires a lot of persistence and figuring out a community that would be able to come around it.
Ankur,
yes, Mr. Banerjee.
Ankur, probably I can speak in the Indian context that with the CSR, when you have to the CSR initiative that every company has to spend a certain part of their profit necessarily for the CSR activities. So companies have come in a big way into education, mainly into education, then healthcare, women empowerment, employment. So this is one way, because large number of companies and huge money can come for this education. In our organization, what we do, and not only this, even government has got at the state level, at the central level, for different categories. For example, India, there are scholarship for Muslim women. For different categories, there are scholarship. So we have there is an organization which looks into all these kind of scholarships. I remember the very first year we got a scholarship from HDFC Foundation, which was enough, which was a 6 crore of fund which was given to us, and it was enough to look into the education of our first batch of 200 students. So we try to explore all possible scholarships which are available by the private agencies. Wahani is another I to name. Ashoka has been very kind to accommodate all our students. And now new universities are coming up. Kriya University, the Atriya University in South. These are the new universities who are welcoming students with full financial aid. And there are organization Buddy for Study, say, which they have a scholarship portal, and they help the student to apply for all different kind of scholarships. So the private houses, government, other organizations, we need to tap those scholarships, and obviously the CSR funding can be a big way. I'm talking in context of India.
I think India is doing pretty well in terms of, in the last, you're right, and ever since the CSR law was passed, there has been a lot of positive investment in education and in fundraising for education sector in India. Anybody else wants to chip in here, or I can move on to the next question? There are a lot of questions, and we are running over time. I want to take maximum questions. So if somebody has no comments, I will move on to the next question. Okay. So next question is for Efua. It says it's from Malin Aladoni. It says HALI Access is doing very good job, but your presence in North Africa is limited. Is there any room for growth in network to include countries like Morocco in your network? So I think this is a person from Morocco.
Thank you. So yeah, I know at the moment HALI has been working with Sub-Saharan Africa, and I think it's linked to the fact that we are broken up as two regions. I know North Africa is down as MENA with some of the Arabian countries. So currently, HALI is focused mainly on sub-Saharan Africa. So that's unfortunately why we don't have any North African participants.
Okay. Shabana, next question is for you. It's from Dr. Anita. She says, have you faced any challenge, and I'm sure you would have, any challenge on part of parents who have pulled out the girls from the school just to get them married? Are all the girls able to achieve their dreams? So any societal pressures of taking girls in the school and probably one of the parent doesn't like it? Those, if you can just quickly comment on that.
Fortunately, in SOLA's case, no. We already, our process is so rigorous. I mean, the kind of families that are by nature attracted to the SOLA model are the kind of families who will accept any kind of risk, whether that's risk to their reputation or to their physical well-being, to be able to provide this opportunity for their daughters. And you know, as they get engaged with the SOLA, they become even more committed to their daughters' future and opportunities, because they just see within a year the tremendous transformation that their daughters go through. So fortunately, in our case, no. But you know, this is a prevalent problem in so many parts of the country and in the region, unfortunately, and one that we can really address by facilitating opportunities to keep girls in school.
That's a pleasant surprise. Thank you so much for letting me know that. Joan, next question is for you from my dear friend in Mauritius, Prabha. She says, does second chance apply to students from all countries? Can students from Mauritius look at second chance? So if you want to tell them, I think you already answered this, but you can take it up.
Yeah, this is a question that is similar to the first one, in that, like, it's kind of, I mean, the question is kind of like, can everybody apply, right?
Yeah.
And the answer is I don't know what this will look like in the future. I was actually a little bit tentative sitting on this panel because this is such a young, embryonic program, and questions like this are questions that we have not resolved, quite frankly. I mean, I think one of the things that we just wanted to try to do is to see if it will work, and then also to see if universities that traditionally have not, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say like look at this from an access standpoint, but maybe I do mean that, if they would remove some of the barriers that they have not traditionally removed. And by that I mean that, like, you know, when you apply to the United States, you can negotiate a bit, you can advocate a bit. I mean, that's part of the holistic admissions process, is that there's somebody on the other side of the desk for whom you can say, you know, hey, can you waive this fee? Can you waive this deposit? You know, that. But this is not something that is actually existing in other countries and other structures, right? So one of the things we were trying to do is, like, for example, with the Hong Kong market, ask those kinds of same questions. Would you do this for this level of student? You know, so I don't know. I'm kind of wandering around the question here, but what if there is somebody out there who's listening, who knows, or if one of the panelists here would like to talk afterwards at some point in regards to how to move this forward so that it is not a volunteer initiative and it is actually something that is a mechanism or an organization, like down the road, years from now, we'd be interested in learning that, because there's only so far that a volunteer initiative can go. When we did the UT Tyler Nepal crisis, that was a volunteer initiative, but I will tell you that it really broke our backs to be doing this on top of our day jobs. I mean, you can imagine trying to seat 60 kids who all need financial aid after the US process is done. I mean, I'll spare you the details, but it was very difficult work. And the same actually has been true with this initiative too. It has been very, very hard. And I think probably everybody in this group, I mean, we haven't talked about this, but everybody in this group has struggled at one point with sustainability, you know. And so if there's somebody listening who would like to have that conversation, we'd like to have that conversation with you. And I'm sorry, I can't answer the question better than that right now, but that's kind of just where we are. We're really in our infancy. We're such a baby at the moment. We can't even crawl. But still we want to keep going, because one day we want to walk. And we do. We want to, you know, we would love a two-sided market for high achieving low-income kids. That's actually the dream, is, you know, if you're a high achieving, if you have means, you can apply any time of the year, especially in the United States. You can apply after May 1st, but if you're low income, you can't, whether you're domestic or international. So some of the things that we're trying to question with Second Chance are larger structures in regards to what can happen after this cycle is finished. Can low-income students have an in at that point too? You know, so anyways, sorry so long, but
yeah,
thanks for the question.
No problem. I think the thing here is, as somebody who, you know, I don't do the incredible work that you do, but I do get some requests for some students who are stuck in India or something. And every time my heart goes out, but I'm not able to, if I'm not able to support, I pass on it to the next person if somebody else can support in the network. But I do feel frustrated, and I can definitely feel the challenge that all of you may have. And placing 60 kids in Nepal was amazing, but I keep my day job. It's very difficult to do something else, even though I want to, you know, but giving that time, I think the most important thing, the thing that you guys give is time, which is required to put in those efforts, writing those letter of recommendations, connecting those people, you know, making advocating for your students. I think it's very challenging, and I think yes, Second Chance is just starting out, but you will have definitely, I'm sure it will grow very big. You will have a lot of expectations from you, Joan. We look forward to, you know, working with you, and definitely anything that I can do in supporting Second Chance, I love to do that. I have one question for Efua, and I'm very, you know, I have an eye on my clock, so I'll take a couple of more questions. There are a lot of them, but there is a question about is this is specific for Ghana? Are you in touch with Ministry of Education or get fund to help with more provision of scholarships for your institution? Is there any plan to advocate or do fundraising for your school?
Okay, thank you. So there's a very interesting one. So at the moment, we're not linked to kind of Get Fund. We are registered with the Ministry of Education in Ghana, but because we do an international program, so we do the Cambridge International A-levels, and we take students from all over Africa, when we can't be restricted to just what is required in Ghana. We are currently facing fundraising issues. So we're not taking in a new intake this academic year because COVID has hit our sponsors very hard. I mean, lots of people have lost their jobs. My staff have had their contracts terminated. So, I mean, fundraising is a big issue. So if the person has some suggestions, I will definitely love to connect with them and see how we can move things forward. Thank you.
Thank you. One question for Mr. Banerjee. There is one lady who wants to know the admission process for your school. What is the exact admission process, and is it only students from Uttar Pradesh can apply to your school and not outside Uttar Pradesh?
Well, presently, primarily, this initiative is definitely for state of Uttar Pradesh, and the basic conditions are the child has to be from a rural area. The family income should not be more than 1 lakh per annum. That practically translates to $1,400 per annum. That is the criteria for admission. And then they have to apply. There will be 2 levels of testing. As I said, the first level, it's huge, about 150,000 they appear in the test. And from there, we make this merit list of about 4,000 to 5,000 for the second level, a second level of testing, followed by background verification, because it's a huge scholarship for the children. If I give you the data, we spend about $5,000 per child per year. So, and it is 7 years of free education. It's lots of money. So what we found that people were trying to get by wrong means. So we have got very strong admission process with many riders and checks. And then obviously the child is bright and it's all very transparent, everything. So if the child is good, definitely he will get admission. And yes, we have started some lateral admission from the other states also. I will share with the team that I have got 2 students from Ladakh. Wow. And we have got about 10-12 students from Northeast. So we are going now pan India, but primarily it is the majority of students, they come from UP, and later admission in classes in grade 7th and 8th. So they can apply for that and they can look into our website. All details are there.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. My last question, and this is the last, and then we call it over. This is for Dexter and Arsene. Probably you both can take this up. There is a student by name of Kapwe Chalwe from Zambia. He says, I'm a recent graduate from University of Rochester and a UWC alumni. My question today for the speaker is that the effect of COVID-19 on performance of high achieving and low income students because of the digital gap that will exist. What are some of the strategies that you are applying to support your students in terms of from low income countries to have a continued well-being performance during COVID-19 and their education is uninterrupted? So probably Dexter and then Arsene.
Great, thank you for that question. I think it is an important question. And I will say that I think that I'm speaking from a huge place of privilege. At ALA, we've been able to continue our curriculum uninterrupted with virtual classes. So all students have been engaged in completing the curriculum. The sort of biggest, I think, challenge has been the completion of the Cambridge International A-level examinations and how they will be graded moving forward. Students experience a lot of anxiety around this. So I think that as an institution, we really stepped up and thought about how to holistically support students, both socio-mentally and emotionally, just ensuring that they were in the right capacity to continue education. And we've also thought about utilizing this as an opportunity, which actually brought on a program, a winter program here in South Africa, where students were engaged in a month-long program, completing some university application materials and just really developing them. So I think that for us, it was more of an opportunity than a barrier, but we do understand as well that many students across the continent have had interrupted schooling, and what we were doing, or what we are doing at this point, is just trying to provide some information and resources to the extended network and sharing our knowledge as an institution with other schools.
Thank you, Dexter. Arsene, if you can talk about your experience in COVID-19, how are you managing?
In Togo, it is difficult to move virtually because students do not have access to the right technology and they don't have access to a reliable internet. So during the lockdown, we were obliged to close and to stop the work. And it is now that the government have opened face-to-face classes and we have started the work again. This is what I can say about Togo.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to have a comment on COVID-19 and its impact on your students? How you solving this issue? Any innovative techniques that you would like to share? Perfect. I don't think anybody has anything to share. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure. We went over time, sorry, by 20 minutes, but I hope it was worth it. It's an honor to have you. As I started my presentation, honor to have people like you who are inspiring a whole lot of educators around the world to do good work that all of you do. And I hope we can continue having this conversation more often. From my side and OP Jindal Global University, our sincere gratitude for accepting our invitation. My sincere gratitude to all our audiences that have been following our webinars and being a part of this conversation that we have been doing around higher ed and school education. Any last words anybody would have? We will switch it off. From myself, thank you so much, and I hope to be in touch with all of you. One more thing, before I say goodbye, with regards to fundraising, we will be sending an emailer out post this webinar for people who like to donate or support these wonderful individuals. I will be sending that email out post in probably next 24 hours by tomorrow to all our viewers. Thank you so much for supporting us, and thank you so much, my panel.